I want to personally invite you to something really special. If you're tired of New Year's resolutions that feel forced, overwhelming, or disconnected from your real life, I've created a holistic goal setting for 2026 workshop that does things differently. This isn't about fixing yourself or pushing harder. It's about getting clear on your values, looking at your life as a whole, and creating goals that actually support your body, energy, and the season of life that you're in. If you're ready to stop striving for an ideal life and start creating goals that help you love your real life, I would love for you to join me. You can find all the details and sign up in the show notes. Welcome to the Love Your Real Life podcast. I'm Faith Lauterbach, and this is a space to help you heal, rebuild, and create a life you truly love, even if it looks different than you imagined. Each week, I'll be sharing tools, encouragement, and real conversations about what it means to move forward after betrayal, heartbreak, or simply life not going as planned. I am honored to walk alongside you and help you love your real life. Hello, and welcome back to the show. And welcome into 2026. It's my first episode in the new year, and I want to just check in and see, how are you doing? You know, I love January. I feel like the energy it brings is really exciting to me, but I also know that there can be this toxic side to feeling like you have to rediscover yourself, to rebrand yourself, to revamp yourself, new year kind of energy that I feel like is toxic for a lot of people. So I want to help you to not feel so overwhelmed. You don't have to reinvent yourself. What if instead of feeling pressured by traditional New Year's resolutions, we focus on something that feels a little bit more aligned with where you want to be? So a couple things I want to invite you into. The first thing is, because it's a little time sensitive, is signing up for my workshop that is creating holistic goals for 2026. And I love this practice. It's kind of the opposite of New Year's resolutions. We're going to look at a gentle way to bring in how we want to feel in the new year and practical ways on how to get there that are judgment free. So that's in the show notes. And there will be a replay available too. So even if you are listening to this after it originally airs, you can still do it through the replay and you'll get all the handouts and everything. So check out the show notes to do that. And then the other thing I want to offer is what we're going to be talking about for this episode, and it's going to be creating a word of the year. What I love about a word of the year is it is a compass, a guide towards how you want to feel in your life. Unlike resolutions, there's no failure, just growth, openness, and alignment, opportunities for alignment. So I used to be a big New Year's resolution person, but they ended up feeling more frustrating and disappointing than something that was helpful. They felt harsh and rigid, and over time I discovered that I can have structure without pressure. So making a word of the year helps me to avoid guilt, to avoid shoulds, to avoid one-dimensional goals that don't take into account and consideration real life. It also helps me to make decisions that are aligned with my values and to stay open to growth and change because, honestly, when we're planning for a whole year in January and we don't take into consideration that there's going to be a lot of crap, good and bad, that happens throughout our year, then we're setting ourselves up for unrealistic expectations. And unrealistic expectations always bring disappointment. So creating a word of the year can help to stay in alignment with your values and gives you a framework for decision making instead of just tasks and to-dos. It's really just like a compass guiding your decisions toward a life you love. There's no failing. It's about openness and growth. Now, you can take things a step further with your word of the year and then do something like my holistic goal setting, which is a wonderful pairing to give yourself framework to this. So, creating a word of the year is such a great, great place to start. So, I thought it might be fun to talk first a little bit about how I even got started in a word of the year. So, let's go back a bit. The end of 2017. I'm not sure what you were doing the end of 2017, but for me, it was one of those life altering years. An upside down, everything turned on its head kind of year. Have you ever had one of those? And for me, the most significant shift that was kind of causing this sudden and complete upside down world was the end of my 17-and-a-half-year marriage. I really did feel like I was stepping into the upside down world. If anybody has watched Stranger Things, you know that it's this hazy, disoriented version of my life where nothing quite felt real. And as that challenging year drew to a close, the thought of New Year's resolutions, something that I had always done, left me feeling frankly paralyzed. The traditional way I had always set goals just really didn't feel possible. I was listening to a podcast and I heard somebody talking about choosing a word of the year. And I'm like, what is this? It was like one of those things where you hear exactly what you needed in the exact moment you need it. It was a more simpler, intuitive way to approach the year. And it was exactly what I needed. And so I've been doing that since, so 2018 would have been my first word of the year. So I thought maybe it would be fun to go over what the last 8 words of those years were. Okay, so in 2018, my word of the year was peace. 2019, it was joy. 2020 was intentional. 2021 was love. 2022 was celebrate. 2023 was simplify. 2024 was alignment. And 2025 was clarity. Now, every year I've improved on how to stay connected with my word and how to let it guide me in more meaningful ways. So, those are a little bit about the history of why I started using a word of the year and the words that I have used in the past. Right now, we are starting the year 2026. And a word of the year is something that makes me really excited. So I've been thinking about my word of the year because, again, I don't think you have to start it with this, like, I need to know it by January 1. So if you are interested in this, but it's past January 1 and you're like, I'm behind, I can't do it, you can. Your word of the year, let me give you a little secret here, it doesn't have to be set in stone and you can actually change your word of the year, right? Isn't that crazy? But you can. So let's talk a little bit about what the word of the year is and how to find the one that feels right for you. A word of the year invites us to become more ourselves, where resolutions usually ask us to become someone else. A word of the year invites us to become more of ourselves. Isn't that so nice? It's like a weight off of our shoulders. We get to be ourselves. We don't have to pretend we're someone else. So that's wonderful. And instead of focusing on what you need to fix, a word focuses on how you want to feel, how you want to show up, what you want to practice, what you want to return to when life feels like too much. A word of the year becomes this, like, again, like this compass to help guide you gently, not a rule that you have to measure yourself against. Picking a word of the year, starting to think about words that really feel meaningful to you, that fit that narrative. What do you want guiding you in this new year? What do you want your compass to be? Now, I will tell you, some years, like the very first year that I had a word of the year in 2018, my word was so obvious. Because of what I had been going through the last part of 2017, I knew that I needed peace. Like, I was desperate for some moments and pockets of peace. And so that word was just like, it was just there. I knew it. Other times I have had to reflect a little bit and find out what my word of the year is. It needed to reveal itself. So here are some things that you could do if you're wanting to do this and you don't have a word that is like right there. So here are some questions. What did this past year ask of me? What gives me energy? What drained my energy? This can help you decide what to bring into the new year and what you want to leave behind. Ask yourself, how do I want to feel this year? What do I want to create? What do I want more of? So, doing some reflecting on those questions can help start just bringing some words to mind. Instead of asking, what should my word be this year? You can ask, how do I want to feel in my mind and body this year? What do I want more of in my relationships? What kind of energy do I want to bring into my days? And what do I want to practice when things get hard? So just know there's no wrong words, there's only ones that feel true. So just knowing that your word is about supporting your real life, not an idolized version of you. This isn't about choosing a word that sounds impressive or something you quote unquote should pick. It's about choosing one that feels supportive. A good word of the year will feel grounding and not heavy. It will invite you back to yourself. It will feel like permission, not pressure. And it's going to meet you exactly where you are right now. If your word feels kind and gentle, you are on the right track. Your word isn't something you have to do perfectly. It is something you return to. So when you want more clarity, let it guide you. When you feel overwhelmed, let it comfort you. And when you forget about it completely, that's okay too. We're going to create ways to bring that word back to focus. But a word of the year works quietly in the background. It helps you shape choices, boundaries, and intentions over time. This is how change becomes sustainable. Like I said at the beginning of this episode, is I have gotten more and more clear in how to use a word of the year, practices to apply to it so that it really helps to guide me. So again, when you choose your word of the year, let that word help to guide you as a compass. Use it as a lens to set goals and make decisions, to choose the people you spend time with, to decide how to spend your energy and react to challenges, how to show up in your relationships with intention. So your word becomes your compass, kind of gently steering you throughout the coming year. I want to talk a little bit about a couple of the words that I've used previously and how they've impacted my year. I'll just go with my word of the year in 2024, which was alignment. So this brought incredible changes. And some of the highlights of that year were I stopped dyeing my hair and embraced my natural self a little bit more. We downsized from a 3,500 square foot house to about 1,000 square feet. I eliminated paper towel use. I walked away from partnerships that didn't align with my values. I spoke up for myself in ways I never had before. I went back to therapy. I found answers to health issues I'd been struggling with. And I deepened important relationships and had honest conversations that lifted weight off my shoulders. So these changes in 2024, even though they were challenging at times, brought immense personal and professional growth. Last year, my word for 2025 was clarity, and it really just kind of started floating around in my mind in late 2024. I knew it was the one. This was one I didn't have to do a lot of prompts on. It just kind of came to me. Going with the notion that clear is kind. What I found is being vague often leads to misunderstandings and resentment, while being clear fosters connection and understanding. So when I brought the word clarity into my 2025, the way I used it into my life and how it impacted was in my physical health. So my physical health, I got even more clear on some physical things that had been going on in my body that opened some doors for me and gave me some options to heal some things that I needed to heal. With emotional well-being, again, so I started going back to therapy in 2024 and continued in 2025, and it helped me a lot in creating some things that I needed to create in my life, giving me a perspective that I needed. Continuing my journal practice, my morning routine. Then in my career, I got very clear in my career goals, my mission, who I'm serving, what I'm doing, creating a path that I want to be on in my business. In my relationships, I brought a lot of clarity to the importance of my key relationships in my life. Financial planning, we got very clear. We're working with a financial planner and started having a much more detailed financial plan and budget. My personal growth, my learning, my home life, all these areas I brought clarity to in 2025. To be honest, I'm still reflecting a little bit on all those things, and I'll do some kind of like recap version, a check in on the word of the year, and I will update some of those things. But I'll just tell you that that word in my 2025 helped me so much. So, if you want to come along with me on this journey of a word of the year, I would love to hear what your word is. And once you've chosen your word, let it guide what you say yes and no to, your habits and goal setting, your daily routines, and your mindfulness. And when I say to use it as a compass, what I mean is use that word. And when you have decisions to make, ask yourself, does it support this word? Does it help you get to where you want to be? So, like for my word clarity, right? I could ask, saying yes to this, does this help me to be more clear? If it's not in alignment with where I want to be, it was a great check in because I could ask myself that simple question. Does this help me get closer to clarity or farther from it? And if it was getting me farther from it, I knew those were no's. I knew that was something that I needed to let go. The same thing with habits, goal setting, daily routines, mindfulness, relationships, all of those things. I could ask myself, does this help me be more clear or less clear? So that is how you can use that word as your guide and compass. I'm a big fan of putting the word everywhere I can see it, having regular practices to check back into each week to see how is that word going for me, to do that check in, to keep that word present so that you aren't getting to the end of the year and thinking like, what was my word of the year? That's what we don't want to have happen. So here's a few tips for making your word of the year work. Keep it simple, especially if you're new to this practice. Schedule those regular weekly check-ins. Use your word as a decision-making guide, not as a rigid task list. And consider creating a vision board for visual alignment. Just know that your word is not a contract. It's an invitation. It's an invitation to live with more intention, more awareness, more compassion for yourself. And remember, living a life that you love isn't built all at once. It's built in these small choices repeated gently over time. And your word of your year is simply a guide for you to do that. I hope that you reach out to me and let me know what your word of the year is. And I'm going to keep you updated on mine. I have some ideas of the word I want, but as I'm recording this, it is not yet 2026. I'm recording it mid-December. So I am still mulling over and working through. And so I promise I'm going to keep you updated on what word I decide on. But please sign up for the holistic workshop. Bring your word of the year there, and we are going to use it to create something amazing for you. Okay, thank you so much for tuning in this week, and I hope you stay well. Thank you so much for listening to the Love Your Real Life podcast. I hope that today's episode was just what you needed. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you're looking for more support, check out the show notes for how to connect. Remember, no matter what your story holds, you are worthy of living a life that you love. Talk to you soon.